Hi, I'm Kelly. Whoa, sorry about that. I'm with HealthyPlace.com. Today we're going to talk about trauma anniversary depression. Our guest is Tamara Sugatan and therapist Amy Quinn. And you can follow Tamara at Miss Rara, and you can follow Amy Quinn at Amy Quinn LMFT. So we always welcome your comments, questions, and experiences. So please share those in the chat and we'll talk about them as we go along. So in December of 2017, an acquaintance sexually assaulted Tamara. The assault itself was very difficult to deal with, of course, but it brought up memories of a violent relationship from her past. So she had that to deal with too. So let me bring her on. See, here she is. Hi, Tamara. How
Hi,
are you?
I'm wonderful. Hi, Kelly.
Good to
Good to
see you.
see
Thank you for
you.
being here today.
I'm very
So,
grateful to be here.
so I mentioned the sexual assault and the memories from the violent relationship. So,
hmm
what were your feelings and thoughts in the days after the assault?
My, it's interesting. It's like you're in shock. I was pretty much in a state of shock. I felt frozen in time. Really just feeling kind of paused in a moment. Um, Processing, like I just replaying and then crying and then replaying and then crying, replaying everything that went on during the incident, and how I knew that what happened was unfair and unjust to me. um, and I kept on contemplating, you know everything, replaying my steps, like I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. Like guilt, blame, shame really does come along with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to eat anything, and it was around the holidays. Everybody, I'm Filipino, so all the good Filipino food I wasn't even able to eat. Um, it it was, I want to say it was a mind F. I don't want to say it, but it was a mind F. And um, I just remember trying to process everything, and then I knew to tell somebody. I told my sister. I told my cousin, um, and I thought about my 18-year-old self when I was in a domestic violence relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and how I didn't tell anybody really, or the people that loved me, that my boyfriend at the time had gave me two black eyes and a broken nose. I really made a lie. I got into a fight at the gas station, you know. Um, I made another lie. I fell and hit a great parking bump, broke my nose. I have a scar here. You can see it.
Yeah.
Um, and that incident happened when I was 18 years old. I was assaulted at, oh my God, 35.
Mm-hmm.
I was assaulted at the age 35, I want to say, 35, 36. And I just, as you get older, how to process, how to communicate, know what's right and you know what's wrong. And I knew to tell the people that loved me, because I didn't say anything when I was younger. And when I told my
Right.
big sister, she she gave me the Women's Center's information, Women's Center of San Joaquin County. She gave me their information. She told me to go seek help. There are a lot of city and state services out there. I had no idea. So I went to the Women's Center. They
Right.
told me that what he did was a crime, and that um, what he did was a crime. It's not my fault. And in order for me to get mental health services, free mental health services, that I would have to file a police report and then apply for victims' compensation with the state of California. So they provide free mental health services and services for any victim of a crime. And I really didn't want to do that because, you know, I knew the person who assaulted me. I was assaulted in a vehicle, and I wasn't, you know, I was assaulted in a vehicle, and I didn't know really what to do.
Right.
So,
Yeah, you were pretty much kidnapped. And
yes,
adult.
I couldn't really go I didn't have any control over where we were going, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I said, you passed the street that I was supposed to go on. He was like, no, you're going to go with me, you know, and I just continued to get anxiety over and over. And again, when I didn't know where we were going, when he really passed where I was supposed to go. And
Mhm.
I was assaulted in the vehicle, and it brought me a lot of trauma to where I wasn't able to drive in a vehicle, um, drive out of town for a very long time. It took me about 4 months to be able to drive out of town. And I am somebody, I used to interview MMA fighters. I used to host a show on Comcast Sportsnet, so traveling is nothing. I would travel all the time. And having anxiety of being in a vehicle and being in a vehicle for a long period of time gave me anxiety. And I got over my fear. It took me about 4 months.
That brings me kind of to my next question. That fear in particular took 4 months to move out of. But every year, how many of those thoughts and feelings are still moving ahead with you?
Well, to this day, it's been about 3 years, close to three. It'll be December 17th, 2017, when the incident happened. I still get anxiety driving a vehicle from somebody of the opposite sex. I It takes me a while. I have to process. I think about it. Like, I'll drive. It's cool. I'll drive. You know, like, nah, I'll drive myself. It's okay. You know. So, you know, that still gives me anxiety. Just thinking about it, thinking about getting in a vehicle with somebody of the opposite sex. You know, I've been with my boyfriend now for almost a year, and he's probably drove like maybe 2 times, 2 or 3, because I'm
And this is
always the
someone you
one.
trust.
Yeah, somebody I trust, but it gives me anxiety, the thought. He's like, okay, I'll drive. I'm like, no, I'll drive, because just
Mhm.
not having control of where I'm going gives me anxiety. Like, I have to have control.
So, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're talking about trauma anniversary depression. And please share your thoughts and comments below, and Tamara can address them as we go along. And let's see, I went through that. So, where do I get to this? Okay, so a doctor diagnosed you with major depressive disorder and PTSD, right?
Hmm.
So, but still, every year around this time, things ramp up for you, right? So, what is the difference between um, dealing with the mental health issues the rest of the year and dealing with it during this time period?
It's a process, to be honest with you. Right after the incident, I was in a deep depression for about 2 months. I wanted to commit suicide, I'll be honest with you. Eh, I, I had suicidal thoughts of when, where, how. I dropped about 10 pounds. I couldn't eat. Sorry, I didn't think I was going to cry. Um, and through it took me to, I started to see a therapist. I started to get out the house more. My dog will always get me. She's like, come on, mom, let's go for a walk. You know, um, it it took me a lot. Dropped 10 pounds. Couldn't drive anywhere. I couldn't really eat. Getting out the house was big for me. Driving was big for me. I mean, throughout this process, I mean, to be honest with you, I still have nightmares. I just had one a week ago, PTSD nightmare of being sexually assaulted by somebody I know, a different person, but, a friend that I trust. But it normally happens that way, with victims of sexual assault. It's somebody that but it was interesting that it was somebody different. And in this PTSD dream, I was in the passenger side of a vehicle, and waking up and feeling these emotions like, what the heck?
Right.
So it's a process. Like I one of the things that really does help is I see my therapist once a week. I love every therapist. I see Amy's here. Like, I give my hats to every social worker, mental health worker. We don't really give them a lot of credit. All the energy that they have to take in and then go back to their own homes, to experience a life and traumas of other people. They have to take some of that
Right.
stuff home. And so I really appreciate my therapist. Therapy has really helped me a lot. Actually, talking about it, sharing my story, doing things like this, public speaking. I became an activist for crime survivors here in my community. Really finding areas of opportunities for victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. My story stems back all the way back down to when I was 18 years old, coming all the way back up to being, a 35-year-old woman. And
Right.
really finding areas of opportunity to where, see, when I was 18 years old, I did go to the courthouse. I did walk there, and I filed a restraining order at my boyfriend at the time. But I never had the paper served because I was scared. And so it brought me back to the person that I am today, the newer version of me, where I filed a police report. So when the Stockton PD did a courtesy report to LAPD, and because the incident happened in LA, so Stockton PD took the report, but it took LAPD 2 months to receive my report. But when I first did the report, I said, they asked me if I wanted to press charges. And I said, no, I'm just looking to get free mental health services and apply for victims of witness, because I was scared about what was going to happen to him. So back to my 18-year-old self, I never had the paper served of that restraining order because I was scared about what was going to happen to him. So fast forward into now, 2 months after I filed this police report where I want to commit suicide. I didn't eat anything. I couldn't go out the house. I really sank into huge depression, major depressive disorders, what my therapist had diagnosed me with. And by the time LAPD contacted me, again, 2 months,
It's a long time.
I told them, that's a long time.
Yeah.
I told them that I want to press charges. I thought about the younger version of me, and where I didn't have those papers served. But it interesting enough, right after I went up to the courthouse, a month later, my boyfriend broke my nose. So I don't want to repeat. I want to do myself a service, and I want to learn my lessons, and I want to make sure that since this was an echo for me in my life, that I do what the universe is trying to tell me, like, okay, Rara, this
Do it
happened to you,
different
and
time.
this happened to you, because your body remembers, your body retains water, your body retains memory, right? We're made up of water. And so it just reminded me of that feeling of who I used to be, and that I have to make sure that I respond to who I am today, right? That's important too, because being in a domestic violence relationship, every time I feel disrespected, it's like, I'm going to go flash on somebody, like, what? Like, ooh, you talking to me that way? And the older version of me, a very older version of me. And it took a lot of practice and patience with myself, taking deep breaths when I'm triggered, because it is a trigger for me. When somebody tells me that I'm lying, it is a trigger for me, because when my nose got broken, I mean, my ex-boyfriend was very insecure. So he thought that I was lying to him, was being very honest. And so being truthful, and when somebody says that I'm lying when I'm telling the truth, really bothers me. And so I'm like, no, I got to make sure that I take deep breaths and respond differently, and make sure that I don't respond to this person, like my boyfriend now. If he says like, oh, you're lying, I'm like, no, I'm not. And I have to make sure, like, okay, you're not my ex-boyfriend from 18.
Right.
Respond in a loving way, because I always have to remember to respond out of love.
Now, do you think oh wait, I wanted to read this comment to you first. I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Be Mad, BGR8P? Oh, Be Mad, Be Great. That's what it is. She says, your strength and resilience is what keeps us going.
Oh,
And
thank
then
you.
there was another one up here. She said she says, you're a great lady. So I imagine,
Oh, thank
I
you.
haven't mentioned it yet, but hashtag rah rah rocks is something that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if,
Mm-hmm.
that lady might know you from there. And then Leah
Aw,
says, the body remembers. So
yes.
you mentioned,
Mhm.
the body remembering everything. Does that ever, since we're talking about, like the anniversary, everything wrapped
Mm,
around the anniversary, is it worse during this time of year? Does it
yes,
happen more often?
yes. This time of year definitely brings out a lot of memories of the way that my body responds to, like, get anxiety, because it's around the holiday. And when I was assaulted, I was not able to. Oh, here I am talking about. I wasn't able to buy my nieces and my nephews Christmas presents like I normally. I didn't finish my Christmas shopping, and interesting enough, my niece just joined in. Hi, Titi. Um, okay, universe, I hear you. At that time, I wasn't able to finish my Christmas shopping. And everybody knows me. I mean, I don't have any kids, and so everybody else's kids, they're mine, you know? And I love to spoil and give them everything that they want. And I just wasn't able to do that, shower them with nothing but love. And so Christmas shopping, I always want to I normally finish like around Thanksgiving, but I, around this time or around the anniversary, it's Christmas, food, music. The music will bring back some trauma. But it's different this year because the last time when I was assaulted, I wasn't working. I had actually got laid off from my job, and I told myself that, okay, well, um, by the new year, I'll find a new job. I was really, because I was there for a while, for a few years, and told myself I'll give myself a break. I went to the Philippines, came back, and I was going to look for another job. But even right now, as I'm saying this, is during COVID. It's like I'm not working right now. They're going to call us back, and then call us back, but I'm not working. So it brings out that extra, like, okay, I'm not working. Um, I'm not that I'm not able to, because I already, because she's here logged in, but I already got the kids some of their Christmas presents. But I'm also sewing. I've also been sewing too, so I'm sewing some Christmas presents this year to kind of keep it on a little lower budget. But not working and being around the Christmas time definitely brings back the anxiety, the feelings. I want to make sure I
A
eat,
lot
and
of triggers there.
a lot of triggers, and being to myself, especially during COVID. We can't really go anywhere right now. I mean, I live in California, so we went back on a lockdown. So it's like we can't really go out anyway. So it is bringing back some trauma, some memories, the way that my body responds. And I really am trying my best to respond differently and
Mm-hmm.
do things. I like to challenge myself. I want to learn my lessons. But one thing that I do know is that healing is, bye, baby. Healing, it's on everybody else's time. It's on your time. There's no timeline on a healing. It's like, oh, I'm going to heal today. I'm going to heal in 2 years. One thing I've learned is that healing is on anybody. It's God's time, your time, whenever you feel is right. And as I as I process and I journey down, um, I know that there's always going to be triggers. There's always going to be something that will come up and remind my body of a certain feeling. Um, and I have to work on responding out of love for myself or responding differently. So this time right now, I'm working on challenging myself to do things differently. Hey, Steph, I love you too. I'm challenging myself doing things differently. I've been writing in a journal, writing positive affirmations as I'm preparing, because we're in December now and it's getting closer to this time. And I want to be in a state of gratitude, but it is challenging. It does get hard. One of the things that does heal me is being around my family, my nieces, the kids. Kids really bring a lot of love and joy, right? And being around the kids, they bring out really good, loving energy. And so I'm hoping to be around them more, but again, this it's COVID times right now, and our families aren't really meeting like we would normally do. So
Right.
me and my therapist are working on it. No,
Very
again,
good.
I appreciate all you therapists out there. Um, I'm not seeping into a depression, again, but my body feels the waves, like we go in waves, and my body is feeling them
So
for
you're
sure.
just taking care of yourself as best as you can and talking with your
I'm
therapist.
I'm writing more,
Mhm.
saying positive affirmations. I'm just doing things differently, being in a positive state of mind. I'm a positive person anyway, but
Mhm.
it's just that my body will still remember,
Mhm.
and responding differently is what I have to work on, and not seep so low or be to myself, which, I kind of do is kind of curl up into my room and not leave, and just hang out
Mhm.
with me and my dog. So,
Well, what would you want to tell or advise anybody who is, going through this type of, anniversary depression? Do you have anything you think you would have liked to know at the beginning, maybe?
yeah, yeah, something that's very important in healing is that it's you have to hold yourself accountable, and you have to know that healing is your responsibility, and as a survivor, even as a victim, is we'll blame people for how we are or what happened to us, but the reality is healing is your responsibility. So if there's anybody who's going through a depression, I want to let them know, like, hey, you can do it. You can get up. It's not easy. Take your time. Healing is in your own time. And if somebody says, "Oh, you should have got over this," you shouldn't know. It's your it's your responsibility, but it is in your own time. So if there's any advice, I would say healing is your responsibility. Hold yourself accountable. Talk about it. One of the things that helps me is sharing my story, talking about it. This right here is healing for me, being able to talk about it. Um, Tell your friends, tell your family, just anybody. Talk to God, talk to yourself, but just get it out. One thing I've learned is that you have to process every emotion. Like
Mhm.
I'm somebody that my older self would hold it in. I would bottle my emotions in. I wouldn't really show anybody what I was feeling at that time. And one of the things that I know now is I have to really feel and process everything and speak exactly how I feel to even my relationships. But feel it. If you feel like you want to cry, cry. Don't hold it in. Just let it out and process every emotion and then respond. But it's okay if it's not on somebody else's time. It has to be on your time. And so any time is okay with you. But the reality is you should hold yourself accountable, process every emotion, and then respond out of love for yourself. Share with somebody or you can get it out. Yeah, so that would be my advice, and that it's only temporary. And so when you speak your truth, right, it's like in the Bible, the truth shall set you free.
Right.
Um, that is something that I hold dear to my heart, because it's the truth. So if you talk about it, your body can feel it, and then you just let it out. You know, the truth shall set you free is the truth, and then you'll be able to move forward. But it's all on your time.
Well, I want to thank you so much for that. And I want to thank you for being on with us today and sharing your story. And let's see, before you go, I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned you're a healing activist for crime survivors. And
Mm-hmm.
you use the hashtag #RawRawRocks,
Mm-hmm.
RARA, rock. And
Mm-hmm.
that's an inspirational campaign for victims of domestic violence and
Mm-hmm.
crime in
Mm-hmm.
general.
Yes.
So I recommend everybody to check out that hashtag and they'll find you there. So
Thank
thanks
you.
again for being here.
All right. Thanks,
I hope you
guys.
feel better.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye.
Yeah, okay, so next, there we go. So our next guest is licensed marriage and family therapist Amy Quinn. She specializes in treating teen and adult depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety, and trauma. And she's well on her way to earning her doctorate and has many other credentials and experiences as well. You can follow Amy at Amy Quinn LMFT, and I recommend that you do. So let me find her. Here she is. Bring Amy on. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you? Can
I'm
you hear
good.
me okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you for. I see we're over time now, but I'm glad that you're still here. Thank
Oh,
you for waiting
thanks.
on us.
Oh, thank
And
you. Thank you to Tamara for sharing her story.
now, for Tamara, anniversary depression circles around her sexual assault.
Hmm.
But what other kind of events might cause this type of anniversary depression?
It's kind of, I mean, it's what she talked about, the anniversary of a trauma, because again, when you experience a trauma, your brain is sort of wired after that to perceive threats and triggers, as we say. And so, because it happened at this time, she's in a store and there's Christmas music playing or there's Christmas presents, and that is triggering her brain to remember that event and to be on the alert because that's, the time that it happened. And so it totally makes sense. And there's a lot of literature out there, a lot of research that talks about how the body and the brain really keep score of trauma. So that's, one example of how that can happen and why it happens.
So it's really almost whatever is traumatic to the person can resurface every year in
Right,
that.
especially on the anniversary or leading up to the actual day, because things around you are similar, whether it's the weather, whether it's, certain, if it's around a holiday, certain things in the store that remind you of that holiday. So those can be real triggers for your brain to just remember, oh, this is when this happened and I need to be on the alert.
Right. So how long does this kind of depression last? Will it just go away on its own?
Well, it's not really Tamara talked about having major depression, and that was something that was diagnosed. So trauma anniversary is not necessarily something that's in the DSM, and it's something that you diagnose, but it's people that do treat trauma and research trauma, they do know about this sort of anniversary trauma where when something, when the time comes, when the anniversary, the same time of what you experience, then that's when a lot of the feelings are going to come up. So until you sort of get the proper treatment, whether it's through EMDR therapy or other different specialized treatment for trauma, you're probably going to experience that every year until your body and until your brain really learns how to reprocess that memory. And that's what some of those specialized treatment for trauma do. And you probably will always remember it, but as time goes on and you get more treatment and you get more healing, it will be less triggering as time goes on.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
My grandfather passed away, and that was a trauma for me years ago when I was a teenager. And every Thanksgiving, I just got really sad, and it took me till I was in my mid-20s to figure out what was going on. So, you know, what might somebody look for if they think maybe they're experiencing this? You know, what symptoms should they be on the alert for?
If they're experiencing like a re-triggering of the trauma, or yeah, I mean, it's really, you know, someone asked the question, is it good to avoid certain exposures during these anniversary dates? I would say yes. If there's certain things that are very triggering to you and really remind your brain of that trauma, try to, you know, maybe avoid some of those situations. Some things you can't avoid. You can't avoid the weather. You can't avoid things that just remind your brain and your body that happened at that time. And what it really is we talked about, you know, your brain remembers, your body remembers, and so it's just like an automatic sort of physiological response. You really can't control it unless you sort of learn what your triggers are, try to avoid them as much as possible, and then, you know, like Tamara said, see your therapist every week. And maybe, you know, when it's that anniversary, you see your therapist a little bit more that month. You know, maybe you see her twice a week, or, you know, you have check-in points, and just, you know, up your support during that time, and let your friends and family know, hey, I might need a call this week. I'm like struggling this week. You know, get your support system kind of aware so that they can really check in on you, and that you feel that support too.
Is there anything else that maybe we don't know about this kind of, you know, trauma anniversary that you would like to tell us about?
You know, I think that, you know, I think just educating yourself probably. I mean, there's a lot of good books and resources out there that talk about this and give you that sort of insight. And there's a lot of great therapists out there that specialize in trauma and, you know how to treat it. And so I would say just call upon those resources. Bessel van der Kolk wrote a best-selling book called How the Body Keeps Score. That's the title of the book. And so I would suggest reading that book. I would suggest reading Francine Shapiro's book, Getting Past Your Past, self-help techniques for people that have experienced trauma, and just really educate yourself. And then, you know, learning about your kind of the trauma brain response, that it's not something that, you know, sometimes you can control. I mean, your body and your brain sort of, they work together, and your mind can't necessarily control what's going on with your brain and your body. And they're working together to basically help protect you, because they're letting you know, this is the time when this happened, and you need to be aware that there could be a threat out there. And when you experience trauma, your brain actually becomes more heightened. So it becomes more aware of threats because it's trying to protect you from another threat.
That makes sense. It's a complicated topic. Trauma is. There's a lot that goes into that. And I want to thank you for being here to kind of explain some of this to us today, Amy.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I will see you again in a couple weeks probably.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Have a good week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that's it for us today. I want to remind you that you can go to HealthyPlace.com. We have information about every mental health concern, and we also have bloggers there who are living with mental illness, and they write about their stories. And it's a really great reference, and I hope you visit HealthyPlace.com. And I will see you again in 2 weeks on our next Instagram Live. And thank you for being here.